Hello, everyone. It's Mary Lurson, NAMM Foundation Executive Director, and thank you so much for joining us for this Best Communities for Music Education Town Hall. A quick little housekeeping we have to do at the start of any NAMM or NAMM Foundation webinars. We have an antitrust statement. I think it's up on our screen now. It just basically is a reminder that when we gather together, we don't talk about prices or price comparisons, MAP policies. And if you need more information about NAMM's antitrust policy, don't hesitate to check us out at namm.org on the About tab. Just make sure that we're all in a safe zone with these matters. So what are the goals we have for today's town hall? And again, thank you so much for joining us and spending the time with us. First of all, we'd like to celebrate and gather together that you are among the group that has received the Best Communities or Support Music Merit Award this year, 2020. It's an unusual year for schools in the spring and early summer season. And we wanted to make sure that we could come together to celebrate and to share with you our congratulations for receiving this award. We also really would like to share with you and from our panel what you're doing and how we're traveling through this unprecedented time, to learn of the plans that are moving ahead for returning to school or continue with online remote learning, and also to share and support one another with the challenges and solutions of this time. So I think that as you were logging on, you saw the panelists that we will soon take up our entire screen in our Hollywood Squares format. But we do want this to be interactive, and there's a Q&A function on our web platform. We'd very much like you to enter your questions. We'll be monitoring them. And as we go through each of the sections of the panel, I'll keep my eye on it and might be lobbing some of those questions right to our panel. So I'd like to, without further ado, open up to our panelists and have them join me on screen. I think there's a little look at the magic of all that. There we are. Thank you so much for joining us. And to kick us off, I'm just going to go down the screen and ask each of our panelists to give us their name, their title, their school district, and then the number of years that they have received the Best Community Award. So Linda, I'll start with you.
Well, great. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here. My name is Linda Keach. I'm in Central Office Administration. I'm the Director of Fine and Performing Arts for the Newburgh Enlarged City School District in Newburgh, New York. And this is our third year to receive this wonderful award.
Thanks, Linda. Perfect. Michael Stone.
Thank you, Mary. And Michael Stone, I am the Visual and Performing Arts Coordinator with Bakersfield City School District in Central California. Our school district has been distinguished with the Best Communities Award for 8 years in a row. It's been a great thing to promote proactively our music education in the district. Thanks,
Michael. And George.
Hi, I'm George Arsenal from the Acton-Boxborough Regional School District in Acton, Massachusetts, and I'm the Director of Performing Arts for the district K through 12. And this is our second year being recognized as the Best Community Music Education. Thank you.
Great. Nathan.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to our panelists and to our almost 130 participants now. I am Dr. Nathan Schilling, Superintendent of Schools for Lansing School District 158. We are located in South Cook County, Illinois. Lansing is about 30 minutes south of the city of Chicago, and this was our first year receiving the BCME award.
That's great. So I want everyone to have the map of the United States and put pins on it mentally. All right, because we're doing pretty well here. We're jumping around. Kim.
Hello, I am Kim Davidson. I am the general music teacher, choir and beginning strings at Morgan Elementary in the Paducah Public School District in far western Kentucky. This is our third year to win this award, and we're very fortunate to have a district that really supports music and the arts.
That's wonderful. Karen, welcome. Tell us about yourself. Karen, we need your mic on. There you go.
Hello. So I teach in Montana. I'm at Deer Lodge, Powell County High School, and we received our third Support Music Merit Award.
Wonderful, welcome. All right, well, now we've got New York, California, Pennsylvania, Kentucky. We just hit the mountain states. This is Illinois. This is looking really good. Lance.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Lance Nielsen. I'm the Supervisor of Music for Lincoln Public Schools in Lincoln, Nebraska. And this is our fourth year of receiving the Best Communities in Music Education Award.
Terrific, thank you, welcome. Nicole.
Hi, I'm Nicole Zenz. I'm from Cassadaga Valley Central School, which is in Western New York. If you're dropping a pin, it's pretty far west in Western New York. And this is our first year applying and our first year to be recognized as a BCME.
Wonderful, great. Sean.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to participate. I'm Sean Small, the K-12 Music Department Curriculum Leader at Cornwall Lebanon School District in Lebanon, PA. It's about 30 minutes east of Hershey, and this is our 5th consecutive year receiving the BCME designation.
Great. Jeff. There you go.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Lackey. I'm the coordinator of fine arts for the Parkway School District, which is in Chesterfield, Missouri, which is a suburb of St. Louis County or St. Louis City. This is our 3rd year receiving the award.
Wonderful, thank you. Barbara.
Good afternoon, good day all. My name is Barbara Weichert, and I am thrilled to be with you this afternoon from Norristown, Pennsylvania. I'm the district music liaison for K-12, and this is our 5th year of being honored with the award. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Charles.
Good morning, everyone on the West Coast, and good afternoon to everyone over on the East Coast with me. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Charlie Ortiz, the co-founder and executive director of the Washington Heights and Inwood, or WIN, Music Community Charter School, which is right on the top of Manhattan Island. This is actually our 1st year, so it really means a lot to be included with so many fine folks doing such great music education across the country.
That's great, thank you. David.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm David Ludington. I'm the band director and performing arts subject coordinator for the Beechwood City Schools. That's outside of Cleveland, Ohio. And we've received the Best Communities for Music Education Award for the past 15 years.
Wow, that's so you know, I think we have a very good representation here. You know, a 1st year superintendent, general music, strings, you know, the whole continuum. And that also was, you know, part of our goal of gathering is to really share the breadth and the diversity of people that are involved in the program. So how are we going to do this, right? Look at the talent on the screen, right? And we did divide it up into some topic areas, and we're going to divide people up into some questions. And again, remember that the Q&A function is open, and we're going to have our eyes on that. And you can actually pitch a question into the discussion. Our panelists are also going to raise, not the hand on screen, but just give me a wave on the live thing here, you know, if they'd like to jump in, because it is a town hall. And a town hall is meant to be, you know, interactive, and that we all get to say something if we want. And, you know, we want to kind of keep this to an hour, but if we go a little bit over, you know, it's it could be important what we want to say. So I'd like to start with some of our veterans to the program. Let's put it that way. Folks that have had their school districts been recognized for more than just a handful of years. And that's Michael Stone from Bakersfield and Dave Ludington. You just told us in Ohio you're 15. And the question is, you know, the announcement of the award came almost right when schools were being pivoted into, you're not going to get to come to school anymore. And we know that the big celebrations for music for best communities were, you know, band events and all district festivals, right, and school board meetings. And I mean, this was like, you know, the kind of one of the reasons to actually have the program. So you had a platform around which you could really share what the success of everything that you were doing. So the question to our alumni, right, of the program, in the absence of these big spring events and the traditional celebrations that you've done for the award, what did you do? You know, how did you make sure that the community knew what was happening, that this award was, and with everything else that was happening? So Michael, could we start with you and share with us what happened in Bakersfield?
Sure. Well, we were in the midst of the ramifications of COVID-19. We were all at a stay-at-home order here in California. So I was working remotely as an instructional leader with our team of teachers. But it was difficult because we felt as if we had had the rug pulled out from under us. We had worked so hard. We had just gotten through festival in the district, and it was time for honor concert and all these big events, Mary, you mentioned, and we were unable to follow through with those, and it was very emotional on our team. So we had dealt with pivoting to distance learning and communicating with our students through Google Classroom and other platforms. But it hurt. Felt like we'd been kicked in the gut. So when the Best Communities Award list was announced this year, of course, we did not have those venues to celebrate in person, but social media became the way that we communicated this out to our community. It went into our local newspaper. It was celebrated by our local music vendors. We have great music vendors in our community here in Bakersfield, California. So our team of teachers then got to have kudos by sharing via social media all the great work they've done. Our Board of Education was able to celebrate remotely as they have their board meetings now on Zoom, basically, from afar. So this year, while it was different for us, it was a shot in the arm at the exact time we needed it because we were all feeling really frustrated and down. And so I just share that social media has given us a platform to really recognize music education in our community.
Well, it's where we've all kind of lived and worked, right? I mean, it's kind of remarkable. David, how about you? After 15 years of, 14 years really of celebrating in the spring season, how did your community celebrate? Oops.
Performance was incredibly painful for students, for families, for teachers. And we really had to shift is that stakeholders have a very wide variety of different preferred communication tools. So to properly celebrate the award without casting that as positive, that our community and our family, families, our colleagues, and our administrators all have the opportunity to see and learn about the recognition.
I think we're having a little problem with David. I think we've lost David. Is that, yeah, I'm sorry. David, maybe you can log back in and we'll go back to you.
I apologize. I think I'm back. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, just maybe review with us again what you did with your community, because we were losing you.
I'm sorry. So just quick recap. To properly celebrate the award required broadcasting it as widely as we possibly could, and that took using the Best Communities for Music Education Media Kit to create things that we could share on different formats. So we did press releases to our local print media, social media from our district accounts and our own teacher accounts. We sent thank you emails to all of our school administrators. Our principals shared our resources in their building e-news. Music teachers shared it in our own music newsletters that went home to families every week. And we created YouTube videos that we shared on our channels and then in our Google Classroom so we can include our students as well.
Well, I'm glad we didn't miss that. You did a lot. I mean, that toolkit can be reformatted into lots of outreach. So in other words, both Michael and David, you managed to get the word out no matter what, right? And it was a boost sort of at the right time. That's great. So I will, Nicole, I'd love to turn to you as a first year, right? This is the first year, and be sure your mic is on. The first year of getting the award, and again, it came right as you're probably pivoting fast into the other modality of teaching and learning, right? So how did you celebrate, and what was the reaction of your community for the first time?
Well, yeah, it really literally came just that week after that that it was announced, and our district curriculum coordinator who helped me work on the application for it, I shared it with her, and immediately she shared it at the very next board meeting, which was actually great because now it was a matter of public record and people got the word that way. And again, just being new to this, it was something very unique and special for us. But same as Michael and David, we really looked to that toolkit that was provided. And we have another wonderful resource at school. Our superintendent secretary created a very personalized press release from that with a lot of photos and quotes and things like that. So of course, just like the rest of you, we got it out on our school social media. It was in the local paper. And we have a music department social media as well that the students manage. So as much as we could, as everyone is right now, virtually getting things out in a virtual manner, but definitely well received and just at a great time for our community as well, because losing concerts, losing the musical, lots of tears with students over that and all those things, but to have a recognition of this sort was a nice thing to have, and a shot in the arm for us as well.
Isn't that great? I'm so glad to hear that, and thank you for your work to stand on the balcony and blow the horn, right? I mean, this is kind of the work of this award that needs to carry on. I want to tell you that we had our own version of disappointment around this, because we go to Capitol Hill at the end of May, and we take to every member of Congress that where schools have received the award, and we take them a little Best Communities for Music Education flag. And it comes in a little stand, and they put it on their desks. And now so we didn't get to do that in May, but we're planning in the fall a blitz. The minute they let us go back to Capitol Hill, we're going to go back with bags full of these little flags that we take around, and we're going to go to every your member of Congress, and say, yes, and now they're starting to add up these flags in their offices. So, it's something that we missed, but we can't wait to do. So just so you're aware of that. Well, thank you. We're going to try to do this little poll. I don't really know how to do this, but if someone on my team knows how to do this poll, but I would like, first of all, we've had a question for our panel before we jump to the poll. How many of you would classify yourselves as being administrators, right? You want to just show us a little? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about half, well, 7. And the rest are teachers, right? Classroom teachers, instrumental teachers, right? So I think we've got a great mix for that. So here's the question. Again, I'd love our panelists to raise their question, and I'd love our audience, our participants, to do this poll, just ask this question for themselves. All right, so this is a yes or no. Raise your hand if yes, don't raise. Oh, there's the poll. Look at that. So we can all do the poll. And then I guess we show a graph after that. Oh, I have such a smart team. They know how to do this. So did all student instruction move online on or about early or mid-March? Yes or no? All right, that's the first question. Now this is kind of listen carefully. This is a little bit of a trick question. Was there a contingency plan in place that transferred instruction online, or was this, like the rest of us, a shock in place moment? In other words, did the district have a binder that said, when all instruction moves online, go to tab, right? In other words, online instruction, instructional goals, objectives, timelines was organized on the spot with teamwork and improvisation. Is that a yes or no? And did school administration, the third question, I think, we have I think, is this the last question? Maybe we can scroll down. I can maybe do that. Or in other words, instructional goals, objectives, style was organized with teamwork and improvisation. That's a yes or no too. And the last one, did the school administration understand what you were doing via online instruction? And when I mean what you, I'm talking about the subject of music. All right, yes or no? So let's take that down. Would any of our panelists, and let maybe like I ask our panelists just to respond spontaneously. Was there a plan in place with your districts? Was there a Linda, you're saying yes. Tell us about that. There was a plan in place that the entire district would move online, potentially.
Well, when we closed March 13th, we had already started to have committee meetings and things about the potential of things moving online. So for the first few days, we weren't sure how long it was going to last. So it started with the administration creating choice boards and things like that for families. We have a very large document that was sent out to families and everything about what was going to happen and how it was going to happen. So I feel like it wasn't perfect to start, but we really did a great job of preparing to do this.
But there wasn't an advanced plan. It was
prior to that happening?
Right.
Oh, no.
Right, I think, is that true for everyone? Was there an advanced plan? No, we're getting a pretty much a universal. We never thought that this quote unquote was a decision that we would have to make. Would anyone else like to talk about the shock in place? Just kind of give me a signal, the shock in place moment. Yeah, Nathan.
Yeah, so in Illinois, we went on school closure on March 17th, and it immediately followed Indiana's decision to close. And so we were in a situation where we were watching our neighbor state basically initiate everything we were foreseeing that was going to come like several days in advance. So that actually was fortunate in some ways because kind of like Linda's district, we also did kind of home learning activity choice boards for our kids, but it allowed me to, at least on March 16th, get my entire district faculty together, schedule an emergency institute day, plan 11 weeks worth of emergency instruction through choice boards, and get those online and available to our families. And so I agree with her that it was not perfect, but it was this interesting, like we were watching what was happening in other areas, and we were almost kind of like trying to think a step or a day or two ahead. And unfortunately, it did end up working out for us.
That is just so commendable. I mean, I really, as part of our thanks for being a best community. Thank you for that remarkable, it was hard. Now, how did music fit in with all of this? Yes, Lance.
Talking about your connections with the community, we have our local cable access channel plus channel 8, which is able to broadcast, the old-fashioned way through antenna. They worked with us, and so for our elementary music and for all PE and language arts, math, we were able to do some online lessons that students, if they didn't have internet access at home, they could watch on TV. And so Fridays became, we called it camp day, computer, art, music, and PE, right? And so with all this, besides, creating curriculum for online instruction, I felt like I became a TV producer because we were creating, and my music teachers just jumped on board, and they came up with some marvelous, exciting and engaging music activities that students could do at home. So that again, there's a wonderful connection with our community.
So you had local cable access, right? Local cable access, So Sean, you want to add something about that?
Yes, in the first week, meetings had already started up within our district as to what it might look like, even though we weren't sure how long it was going to go. At that point, there was no knowing if it was going to go all the way to the end of the year. We had shut down at the end of the day on March 13th, on Friday the 13th. And the next week, those meetings occurred, and by week 2, our technology had already put in place, our technology department put in place a 5-day training, training the entire staff of the district on utilization of different platforms and delivery, which provided a great framework for our music faculty. Our creativity took over at that point, where we immediately constructed a document showing our K-12 departmental distance learning approach as it pertained to music classes, ensembles, concerts, award recognition, even what graduation might look like, even though we didn't know these things, recruitment, even though we didn't know what was going to happen. We tried to have multiple things in place, enrichment opportunities, and even future application. And then that document was shared with appropriate administration, public relations, updated as the situation evolved. And I also had regular conversations with administration, updating them on the status of our departmental progression.
Yeah, wow. Fast work. Was music ever, I'm going to ask some of the questions that have been bugging me. Was music in the process of this big shift considered like, oh, we don't have to worry about that? Was there, I mean, and I would say in this pool, probably not. I mean, but was there ever kind of discussions, oh, we have to worry about literacy, numeracy? We've got George.
Yeah, so Acton Boxborough is a very supportive community. It's a great place to work and live and teach. And the message that we kind of were getting and what we were telling our teachers was about is, you know, forming these plans and doing this is more than any one person or one committee or one level of administration can possibly do on their own. And sometimes as teachers, I do teach one class a day as well, we sometimes feel like I have to wait until I get directives, or I have to wait until I'm given the directive of what am I supposed to do, where, you know, that poor superintendent in our town happens to be a former band director. We're very fortunate, but that, you know, poor person, everybody's waiting for every cue at any point. So we really, we tried to kind of take the bull by the horns, and that was where we found most of our movement and our positive production was, you know, most of the principals and upper level administrators, they didn't know what was going on, and they didn't necessarily consider music, but that didn't mean that they didn't want it or they didn't find it important. They just needed to get the information from us, from our teachers, about what was happening and how it could happen in the future.
That's such a great point. You know, you have to push onto the table, right? You have to be the solution, Michael.
You know, it was amazing to see innovation by some of our faculty members. Google Classroom has now become something that all of our teachers will be certified in by the fall. And we will be using that as our platform should we use distance learning moving forward. But I saw lessons that I could not believe come from some of our teachers, where the students were composing at home, they were performing at home, they were following our national standards. And that was so inspirational to me as someone who has somewhat limits with technology. I now am running forward, trying to catch up to some of these young, innovative teachers that we have on our faculty. So that's been a great benefit of the experience we've had for the last several months.
Well, that's remarkable. Karen, you were very shaking very affirmatively. Did you want to add something to that? About the, you know, be sure we have your mic on, Karen. Try it again. There you go.
Yeah. Yes, we use Google Classroom a great deal, and I learned so much about Google Classroom very, very quickly. I learned how to make quizzes. I even got the students to design lessons as well, and that was a great deal of fun. The things that they came up with was just amazing. And all the different choices that you have on Google Classroom for designing lessons is quite extensive, and I learned a great deal thrown in the deep end, even though I had used Google Classroom quite extensively for a number of years. But now I know a lot of the ins and outs, and that's really kind of a wonderful platform to use.
Yeah, wonderful. I'd like to, you know, I'd like to ask our two kind of central office folks, Nathan and Linda, a question that came through on the transom here too. There's been a concern through all of this transferred online about student access and equity. You know, the reality of, do they have the right materials? Do they have the right access to bandwidth? How are you approaching this, or what is your thought process about this as you deal with your families and communities? Nathan, could you help us with that?
Absolutely. And I'm wondering if maybe Linda's district did something similar because they also did choice boards. So a choice board is kind of a home-based activity. We made ours available on the website, but also in paper form. our district was serving grab-and-go meals at one of our elementary schools, so parents could come pick up their breakfast and lunch, and they could also get their packet of home-based activities for a given week. That set the foundation for the educational activities for the kids. That was what we rolled out where we developed that Institute Day. We did 11 weeks worth of those. And then on top of that, as this continued, because I'm sure like a lot of your other districts, we weren't planning on this being the entire rest of the school year. You know, it started in Illinois being 2 weeks, then it turned into a month and a half. And then it turned into, you know, now we're doing a stay-at-home order and we can't leave it. So it kind of progressed that way. And as it progressed, we facilitated some additional professional development. We worked with our teachers on Zoom and virtual lessons. We had music teachers doing video recorded lessons and sing-alongs and things like that. So envision, you know, kind of this home-based, paper-based work from an equity standpoint available to everybody, and then supplemental things that scale up from there that are more digital-based. And that allowed us to kind of catch up with the technology too. So the CARES Act, which is coronavirus relief, that provided our district with $725,000 that we were able to repurpose to replace student computers at our junior high school. And we took the old computers and we ended up donating 750 used machines out to our families in the community. So we worked hard to kind of build the technology capacity for our kids. And our bus company also, we've been working with on getting the buses out and deploying Wi-Fi and things like that. I'm sure other districts have done things like that as well. So it was almost kind of like, we started by setting the foundation with that paper-based work, and then we kind of scaled up the digital as we built capacity as this thing carried on.
That's amazing. I mean, I thought I had a lot to do the last couple of weeks. I mean, really, this is very inspiring. Linda, how about you? Anything to add to that? The scaling up to equity?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're a very large city school district, and just as Dr. Schilling said, we also had a challenge with meals because we provide breakfast and lunch to all of our students every day. So that was a very big priority for us, was to make sure that was going to continue, and that did continue. So great shout out to the folks that do the meals and things like that. We started off with Chromebooks, and most of our secondary students have Chromebooks, and they took them with them, and the technology facilitators were absolutely amazing in getting more for our students. So grades 3 to 12, all of our students have Chromebooks if they need them. We also did a big push for getting hotspots for folks that didn't have access to internet. So they did a great job with that. We started off with paper K-2, and then, I mean, that's the most difficult. K-2, I think, is the most difficult and the most challenging. So we started off with paper for them and then gradually added in as best we could. And when we started with the choice boards, it was, what I focused on was 2 levels. One, if you actually had access to the internet, and one if you didn't. So I did both ways. Now that's, again, challenging because if you don't have the internet, you're not going to get this information. But we were trying to focus on both ways because it's very difficult. And for our staff, we did what we call a Mindful Monday, which was full of professional development. So I've provided at least one opportunity for professional development for all my staff every Monday since this started. And it had many different capacities, lots of SEL, lots of things to do, and many choices and things on any aspect of Google or Adobe Chrome or Spark or any of the wonderful platforms. So it's been a challenge, and as music folks, we're not flipped. We're not good at doing that flipped classroom situation, but I've been so impressed with what the staff has done. And we are a Google Suite school also. So all of my folks have Google Classrooms. And at the district level, I actually have a Google Classroom. And that's where I have been, instead of sending people emails every single day with all of the resources that I can gather, I just created a Fine and Performing Arts Google Classroom, and that's where I populate all of the things that I come across from you guys and other folks too. So thank you.
I hope everyone that's participating is getting some great ideas here. I mean, this is just an idea font. And we've got some very interesting questions, a lot about back to school, and I kind of want to turn to that topic because we're, but thank you so much for that. Did we have the results of our last poll? I don't know if that's part of what we do with the poll. Again, did the student instruction move online? Yeah, 95%. I guess a few didn't. Was there a contingency plan? No. In other words, it was made up on the fly, but some did have a contingency plan. Instructional goals was really improvisation. And did your school administration understand what you were doing via online instruction? That's a pretty good number. In other words, you pushed your way into the planning process. Well, I kind of like polls now. I think that was kind of fun. We're going to do another one. All right, so we're going to flip to the reality of what's ahead. And we want to learn. We've got some great questions about music instruction. We've also, we're tracking very carefully some news that we're hearing from Massachusetts that might be some outright threats in some of these programs. But, you know, top of mind, we have to say top of mind is the reality of the health and wellness of our children, and the health and wellness of our faculty, and the health and wellness of our community writ large, right? Which includes our hospitals and our medical workers and the whole continuum, the people who you know, are interacting with us to support our lives, or people who work in food and our grocery stores. You know, it's been a time of, in many ways, unprecedented. There was a pretty remarkable study that we've never ever done this before. We had never all stopped everything to kind of help one another. And we need to be mindful of that, that we have actually saved millions and millions and millions of lives by taking these actions that we did. And there's some interesting science coming about that. So we know that first and foremost, this is where we're starting from. We also know that we are in pretty challenging times relative to state education funding. And that is because of the funds that had to be diverted to manage the medical realities within the state and the needs of our communities and citizens at this time. So we're also very much concerned, and we'll be requesting in our summit next week, when we start our outreach to members of Congress, that we feel strongly that we need a federal relief funds and additional federal relief funds to backfill education, to make sure that education remains as whole as possible. That's a threat. And we also know that states are just starting to provide guidance for reopening, and that districts are developing their own plans for reopening. And that in many instances is a hybrid of some on-site learning and continued online learning again. So we have a quick poll here, all right? And we can throw up now that we're so used to, can we get there you go. All right, so first, this is for everybody. Do you know what your state plan is for reopening? Yes or no? And this is a guided learning question because you can get your state's reopening plan on your state's Department of Education website. All right, so in other words, information is available. And do you know your state's reopening plans for music, fine arts, and PE? That's a yes or no. And in many instances, these plans are they are included in the state plans as an addendum, or they are being developed and being monitored by the CDAE organization. And CDAE is your State Education Agency Director of Arts Education. Now, not every state has one of these, but they are a person that's located in your Department of Education. So let's take that poll and come back to it. In other words, there are activities in place, there are frameworks and guidelines in place. So now I'd like to call on Kim and George, Jeff, and Karen. This is your portion to share what your district is, where you are in your district's reopening plan, the state of play, and what is the state of play for music education. Kim, would you like to kick us off?
I can. I spoke with our superintendent last night to make sure I was up on everything, so see if anything had changed. And right now they have 3 different plans in place, waiting to see, a little closer to time, because it still is early. We're scheduled to start school on August the 11th, I think it is. So we still have a little time to play with, but they're sort of leaning towards a hybrid model where we're in school half day, out of school half a day, and then switch, based upon family units. And as far as how music and the arts plays into that, they're waiting. Our state is supposed to come out this week with guidance on how music and will play into that category. We have seen some things, and honestly, I don't like how it looks. But I mean, again, we have to keep everyone's health and in the forefront. I mean, we're just in new territory, and we don't know what could happen, and or we do know what can happen. We don't know, the ultimate effects of it. But when those guidelines come back out, we will know more about how music and things can happen. I mean, we've been told we could push a cart from room to room. We've been told that we will be totally online with the students. So it's still just too early for them to tell us what we're going to do. But we do know we have jobs. So, that's good. They are not cutting us. They're, we will be teaching music somehow, but we don't know how yet.
And that's significant. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you get to stay in the game, right?
Yes. Yes.
You are at the table.
Yes.
And, offering up your, because what music offers too is part of the health and wellness we want for students.
Yes.
Right?
And he did tell us, when these guidelines come out, he's going to pull us all together and we're going to sit and kind of hash it all out. And, what do we think would work? What would not work? So he is inviting us to the table to work on it and, come as a plan together.
And I'd say wherever the continuum or the timeline is relative to the pressure of the budget on staffing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Whatever, don't wait.
Yes.
Go in and start expressing the energy and desire to be part of the solution for the health and wellness of all children.
Yes.
It's like, I'm going to wait if I have a job or not. And it's like, well, you will take that energy either where you are or you will take it somewhere else in life, right?
That's right.
But
That's
it's
right.
like, to really stay, and that again we talk about advocacy, we talk about the energy of being champions for music education. It's this moment to lean in, and part of this award that we want, if you feel to be emboldened about it, right? That
yes.
Yes. George, I love you. Go ahead, Kim.
No, I was going to say, and lucky for us, we have a community that supports music so much. So, they weren't going to let it go anywhere either. So, I mean, if those documents come out this week, we'll be in the superintendent's office next week and we'll have a plan.
Being part of the solution. George, how about you? You've been very affirmative in your following here.
Yeah, Massachusetts Department of Education is releasing guidance, I think like everywhere, very slowly, probably not as fast as we would like or as often as we would like. And, in every conversation, I think we probably have all had the conversation when people ask us, well, what's going to happen? The first thing we say is, well, nobody really knows. And that's, of course, is true. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. So what we've started to do in our district and similar districts around us is to start to talk about the different options that will happen, assuming that it's not going to be like it used to be. So, and even if it was, it wouldn't take much for us to kind of rely on our entire experience of our career and whip something up very quickly, but to plan for those other models, that being a hybrid model and a virtual model. And something we started to talk about is where do each of our levels and where do each of our subjects actually fit best, and we may be able to actually provide something that the school districts need, that being the extension of the school day. Most parents are saying, my kid has too much to do and they don't have enough to do, right? They're online too much, but then they're not doing anything else when they're not online. So it's trying to find a place where music might not only be a really important part of the school day with our faculty that's there, but also the idea that it might be an important part of just our community and our school day outside of normal school hours, and keeping that going with all of our students. Our district has affirmed their commitment to music and visual art and theater arts and physical education. In a lot of ways, that's maybe the only 4 subjects that we need to teach when we come back in the fall when we talk about SEL are those really essential parts of humanity and what keeps us going during this time. So my staff has been really fantastic in coming up with great ideas about how the fall is going to look, knowing that the only way we can really fail at it is if we try to recreate what we've always done and then compare it to what we've done in the past. And the reality is we can't do that to our students. We have to kind of move beyond the grief of not being able to do what we've always done, envision what could be, and potentially capitalize on some interesting opportunities that we're always frustrated that we don't have a chance to do interdisciplinary learning. We might actually get to do interdisciplinary learning. We tried it this spring. It was a good dress rehearsal. I'm glad we had the chance to try it. We learned a lot from it. So not to be overly optimistic, we're really trying to become a fabric of the community, stay present, and keep connected with our students. And our administration has been really, really supportive of that.
So when we get some of this news from Massachusetts, can I call you?
Yeah, please do. And it's, I should say, it's not rosy everywhere. There are communities with, Massachusetts isn't a big state. If I drive 35 minutes away from my house, there are communities that have laid off their entire K through 12 music, PE, and visual arts staff, just, unilaterally. So it's while we're really fortunate as a community that supports the arts, it's always been a part of our community. That is not universal across the state, and I suspect that not only this year will be a difficult year, I actually think next year might be even more difficult. And those in kind of administration know money tends to really flow a couple of years down the road, and that's where I think next year it's so essential that we establish ourselves as an essential part of a child's education, and that proving to our communities that of course it should happen, everybody agrees with that, but can it happen and how well can it happen? And that's going to be our real mandate for the fall.
And this whole period, music's been the glue of this time, right? I mean, whether it's with the music teacher or not, it's just been the glue of this time. Thank you for that. Some great questions. I want to get to our panel. Now we'll get to a couple of questions. Karen, your thoughts about this from Montana? And did we lose? There she is. Oh, we need your mic on.
Quickly.
There you
Hello.
go.
I am the only music teacher in my district. And so I have a plan in place for whether we go back to the brick and mortar building, whether we have a hybrid situation, or whether we're totally online for the whole of next year. So I've planned out the whole entire year for my curriculum. I looked on the Office of Public Instruction website last night, and there really wasn't anything particularly in place. I think they're developing something, but whatever they come up with, I'm ready.
Well, that's the spirit, right? And I think that the fact that you went on to the Department of Ed website, I want to say to all of you, you should not hesitate in any day to call your State Department of Education with questions, to offer your support, to offer your resource, to be a resource to the department for how music can look. I'm just saying, I mean, it's another place to push yourself into. How big is your district, Karen, if you're the only music teacher?
Well, we have one high school, that's it. So that's our entire district. And we have grade schools, but they're in another district. We're kind of an unusual town. We have 2 districts in our town, and the outlying areas all belong to the other district. Then they're all grade schools. So we have one high school. I did do a town hall with my students, the very, very last class of school, and all their answers about how things worked online. I printed it all off and gave it to my principal, and so I'm hoping that that will come up with, they didn't just talk about the music curriculum, they talked about the curriculum, all the teachers, all their classes, and they just said how, they explained how everything worked for them or didn't work for them, and maybe we can come up with some ideas on uniformity across the teaching, across the whole school. And so I found that very helpful. I learned a lot from them.
Lot of work ahead. Jeff, how about you relative to back to school and planning and state plans and what's planned for music ed?
So we're a very large school district, and but one, all of our teachers have jobs, and music is going to be a priority in everything we do. I'm actually on the district steering committee for reopening procedures, so I'm in a lot of conversations, daily conversations. In fact, right after here, I have another meeting about one. But no, I very similar to what Kim had talked about. We have 3 plans. We have a quote normal back to school plan. It's not going to be normal. We have a hybrid plan, which has been tweaked out. We're still working on which options are going to be there. And then of course, what we called e-learning, the emergency learning thing, we're trying to, we're spending a lot of resources right now just trying to make that a more robust system, maybe calling it distance learning or something, so that we're prepared to move in level 1, level 2, level 3 as needed. We're a big enough school district, we might not even be at all the same level at any given time. We may have some schools in different situations. And so we're just trying to prepare for all scenarios. But for sure, music is at the forefront. Some preliminary data when we survey our parents, we have a pretty significant amount of parents have already indicated they may choose to keep their kids home next year. And so no matter what, we're just trying to figure out what that might look like. And that's one of the challenges. Another thing, because of the sharing thing, community supplies is going to be an issue. And so we're looking at coming up with some rental procedures rather than purchasing instruments, what we can work with our local music vendors to rent instruments for this coming year. And so we're getting a lot of support from our local vendors of what we might be able to do there as well.
Mm-hmm. I want everyone on this, on the panel, of course, we're great examples of this, but everyone on this call to kind of make a quiet little pledge, a promise to me, right, to all of us, that wherever you are in this continuum of reopening and planning, you will call someone in your building administration, your central office, and offer to volunteer to be part of the reopening planning process. I'm just saying, if you've never done it before, that is no reason not to do it. If you've never volunteered for this type of thing before, if you're shy and don't really want to talk to other adults in a big room, or you're going to be on Zoom, you're not going to be in it. It's a great experience. It's part of your growth and your development. And you will find out that you may save music in your whole community just by the fact that you're there. Lance, can you add to my call to action?
Yeah, actually, this morning I had a Zoom meeting with our Lincoln Lancaster County Health Department, because they've been working with our superintendents on a plan, and of course, music, they had a lot of questions. And so I shared with them my plan, and we've got a dial of green, yellow, red, orange, red. And so we're living in yellow right now. So we're building plans in each of those colors. So I shared them with my plan, and they had questions because they're not in the area of music. And so they learned from me, I learned from them. It was a great conversation. They helped me now that I can continue to work on my plan and make sure that it's safe for students and safe for the teachers as well.
Great. Michael.
Lance is doing what I have also tried to do, and that is connect with our local public health department. And I fortunately have a former student who's an epidemiologist with that department, and she was able to give us procedures for safely collecting back musical instruments, for summer repair and cleaning. And now as we plan forward, I think most on this Zoom are probably aware that there is a coalition of performing arts organizations who have commissioned a study at the University of Colorado. And Mary, I don't know if you're probably more up to speed than any of us to speak about that. My understanding is that data will be released in the coming couple of weeks, and by July 1st, I believe we'll have the actual research study that will demonstrate to us aerosol disbursement and how that will affect band and choir classes in particular in our schools when we are face-to-face. I think as we look at student safety and teacher safety, that this study will be very, very monumental, and we are all on pins and needles waiting to get the information.
Good, thank you. Thanks for mentioning that. Yes, there is an aerosol distribution study or aerosol dissemination study, very much fast track to have data. There's also a lot of other studies, and some are being published and debated. Big article in New York Times today about we can never be able to sing together again. I mean, there's a lot of things. David, please jump in, David, and add to this.
I also been following that study very closely that Michael just mentioned, because I don't think we can wait for guidance from our states. Ohio has not released their guidance yet for schools in general, or for music. And I know that they're working on both, but it's our job as music educators to protect music's place in the curriculum. And part of that's going to be having the answers ready and the creativity to find ways to hold our classes safely when our administrators ask us how we're going to do that. So it's really important to be ready for that discussion. The NFHS also has for marching band directors out there a 3-phase return to action plan that I've been using this summer to build my own, and I would definitely direct people to that. NAMM has been part of a study for instrument cleaning procedures that we've been using to build our own enhanced cleaning practices going forward. So now is a great time to practice. So when discussions happen, you have the resources ready to go. So thank you.
Yeah, there's more to come. David was referring to a guideline that we published several weeks ago that was actually reviewed by the CDC, and that document is available at the NAMM Foundation. And I do know that NAFME, we have a terrific relationship with NAFME and also the National Federation of High Schools, are publishing a blueprint for music education. Really will probably be out at the end of next week. So, and then we'll make sure that all of you, are aware of that document. And also there's a unified statement that has been published and is co-signed by 51 organizations. Another very important piece to take to school administration to say, this is why we need to include music in our back to school plans or our reimagining education plans. So that's very, very important. You're also smart, thank you. You're also great. Well, we have another little pot of panelists that are going to help us. Also, we also, in our discussion, we can't be afraid to acknowledge that there are challenges ahead. And it's all right for us to kind of, put the challenge out there and say, this is the thing I'm most concerned about, and this is the problem that this is how I'm starting to solve this problem. So I'd really like Lance and Sean and Barbara and Charles to kind of help us tackle that. I would tell you one of the questions that have come through: how are we going to deal with recruitment? How are we going to deal with that great experience of parading all the fourth graders through the gym, right? And they all get to go ooh and ah, and this is going to be my instrument. And how are we going to? So, who would like to start? Charles, would you like to start? Or Sean, you raised your hand first. Why don't you start, Sean? What's something you're really concerned on and working on?
Sure. So my biggest concern is not necessarily how to address a specific scenario. I think we all know as music educators, we're built to be problem solvers. Our creative nature allows us to see solutions and even positive momentum where others might see roadblocks. My biggest concern is the uncertainty and fluidity of the overall situation itself. The situation now, as many of the other panelists had mentioned, is ever evolving. It's going to change again in ways that we may not be able to anticipate, at least with one solution. So in order to best anticipate the moving target, the way that we've worked in our district, our department has worked to create solutions that can flex and morph easily to encompass a changing scenario. So, you have your different, hybrid and totally virtual or brick and mortar, but even within that, we've tried to develop solutions where it will flex easily into one or the other. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel for each thing. And it also works nicely as a walk alongside of other avenues. For example, you had mentioned recruitment. Our elementary general music staff, which I am also part of, our music classroom and choral, we develop weekly episodes that basically run as a show. Theme song and everything. And those episodes are between 25 to 35 minutes. All of our elementary music teachers are in on it. We all have our own kind of corner of it that we do, rhythms, listening, singing, all those things, completely interactive with drop-down folders as well, that then they can go on and interact and do extra things where they can pause the episode and do that. But we built that as a flexing and morphing model where we already knew that we were probably going to have to try to do virtual recruitment. So we actually pulled recruitment into those episodes. And we had our elementary band and orchestra directors as special guests on these episodes. where now it's special guest with so-and-so and special guest so-and-so. And we had a weekly progression that built up to the end of the year with then a mid-May culmination. And then we also broke out of that and included special guests from the community where students may not have been exposed to them quite as much. And we tried to pull in some different special guests that would enhance those different instruments as well. And those recruitment aspects can also be popped out of those episodes and reutilized again at the beginning or repurposed at the beginning of next year, depending on our situation. We can always extract those and use those. Those episodes also serve kind of a dual purpose of a possible substitute plan. I mean, we have a big issue with finding music subs in our district. So depending on the situation or people who might have to self-quarantine, those can actually serve as a 40-ish minute lesson that is completely interactive and is all of our elementary staff on it. You know, we built virtual concert experiences as well and worked with public relations to do that where the community could access those. Those were also built to morph into a potential hybrid depending on what happens this coming fall. If we have to move those partially online or any other scenario that might happen. And one of the things coming up that we've done is we've moved our marching band, as many others have, virtually online. Our district uses Microsoft Teams. So we have 26 channels in there and a progression through the evening where there's a lot of socialization involved because that social aspect is so important to keep that connection. So there's the social components, they've got social teams, they've got sectional teams, and there's full ensembles in there. That whole structure is almost a pilot, though, that can morph and flex into what our ensembles might or might not look like in the fall. So not getting back to those full ensembles, we can repurpose and flex and morph what we've already built. So everything we've done, whatever framework you might use as well, we've kind of carefully flexed and adapted it to build to the future.
Is everyone's hedges exploding right now? I mean, that is amazing. I mean, what you've been able to do. You know, the whole recruitment thing is and you know, Sean, if you could put in our send to us the some links to this, if you could share any of this, we would love to share this with this audience. We
Absolutely.
also, a wonderful recruitment idea that we saw someone do, they sort of did the instrument choice like the NFL draft. And they had a night where every student was supposed to decide their instrument, and they went to the cut to them, and then they announced that their instrument, and, you know, it was, you know, again, it kind of just so creative and using, just building up this energy and this excitement, right? I mean, and how do we use this medium? That's great. Barbara, could I jump to you? What's been your concern and how are you addressing a problem?
Well, Norristown, Pennsylvania is about 30 minutes west of Philadelphia, and we have been pretty hard hit with the COVID cases. So addressing the safety and well-being for all of the students and the individuals involved, and making sure that the staff feel comfortable upon returning into classroom or whatever one of the 4 hybrid models could look like. Pennsylvania is doing a really great job in coming up with different scenarios and leaving it to the districts to determine how things are going to take place should we move into any whatever given scenario it happens to be. So we'll use our data-driven decision-making, we'll look at numbers, we'll look at where peaks are. But one of our other big concerns is making sure in Norristown that we have the ability to bridge the digital divide, which takes place because we do have a number of students that did not have access to technology, which we were able to ameliorate through providing Chromebooks to students or providing internet connectivity. You mentioned the idea of the task force and becoming a part of it. That's something that they've asked me to be a part of. And when we think about it, it's like, well, what the music teacher doing on a task force for a pandemic? Well, why not a music teacher? We are the creative thinkers. We have ideas that other folks might not have. And hopefully there aren't a whole lot of people who have experience being on pandemic task force. So if not us, then who? Thinking about the challenges of something like choir. Maybe my choir next year, at least in the start of the year, doesn't look like the normal singing that it does. Maybe it's more of a body percussion. Maybe we're not singing at the start of next year in the traditional sense. We have to be willing to model Danielson's flexibility and responsiveness in her domain 4 and say, we're going to take whatever we are given and we are going to move students forward. This is a temporary situation. People look to us music educators as a little bit of a compass of compassion and peace building. And if we can do that, then our districts will thrive.
I just want that idea to land. Compassion and peace giving, right? Our districts will thrive. You know, through all of this with, you know, there are these remarkable ensembles. It's the byword is chamber music, chamber music, chamber music, right? There's the opportunity to learn new and different ways. Thank you, Barbara. It was very inspiring. Lance, thoughts from you, your challenge and how you're working on it?
You know, I think we're all kind of come up with some similar ideas, like the chamber music approach, but it's going to come down to the devil in the details, right? All the logistics. And I think that's one of my biggest challenges is each of our schools and our school districts will have our own unique things that we're going to have to deal with. So I'll just give you an idea. Our school district, we have 6 high schools, 12 middle schools, and 39 elementaries. And we start beginners in band and orchestra in 4th and 5th grade. So we've come up with plans very similar to what you've heard, but if this is not going to be feasible to start at the beginning of the year, depending on where we are in our scenarios, we've even thought about maybe we'll have to postpone that to January. It's not the best case scenario. We lose instructional time with them, but hopefully, maybe next summer, we will be able to do things. And so we can have remedial camps next summer where we can keep those kids going over next summer. And what that opens up for me then is I have 30 itinerant teachers that traveled to teach those beginning band and string lessons. I can now move them into middle school and high school, because if we're going to do chamber groups, if I have an 80-piece band, we'll have to make them smaller. Well, we're going to need the staff to do that. So that helps that. Now that leads me into space. Where do we go? So I know one of the questions was in here about, you know, spacing. And one of the things I'm thinking about is all of our high schools and about half of our middle schools have an auditorium. So if you have an auditorium, that might be a great place to move choirs, because you can put them every 4 or 5 seats, get some spatial distance there. That opens up another music room where you can spread out some more chamber groups. So it's being creative with the spaces that you have. So I think the challenge is going to be the logistics in each of the schools once we come up with these plans.
Fantastic. Charles? What's happening in New York?
Great question. I think Wynn is in a very unique situation because we are a single standalone charter school founded on the principles of El Sistema. So we run a music-focused charter school. And so every day, every child gets 2 periods of music. One of them is the orchestra and one of them is choir. And they are, and that is firmly rooted in all things we are in our community and our culture. And so we also do that alongside ELA, math, science, social studies, physical education, and everything else. So for me, when I think about the concerns, you know, I think pretty similarly to, I believe it was Barbara from Norristown, that I think one of the things that I'm most focused on is just how all of our students, our staff, and our families are going to be feeling emotionally as we come back. There's going to be anxiety, like, should I send my kid back to school so soon? Will they get sick? If they get sick, will my child's grandparent get sick? And staff that are, you know, in vulnerable populations. And so I'm anticipating a lot of questions and concerns and just humanity as we go back. And then I think it's harder when we think about our need to keep high academic standards and rigor for our music program, as well as our ELA, math, and everything else. And so for, I think, solutions, I think what we are really doing is trying to figure out how to create a reentry plan to be from a trauma-informed lens so that we're able to meet all of those needs right on the first day, and if not before. And I think that's going to look like leaning on our counseling team and our social workers heavily. I think it's going to look like really increasing our communication and really making sure that everyone knows everything so that they can feel comfortable. And then reviewing data in real time so that we can make adjustments that will allow us to keep that really high academic rigor in place for everything, while also doubling down on our social emotional learning, our character building, and our school culture work. And I believe if we do that, we'll be able to have a flexible and slow reentry that allows everyone to be at their best, so that students can calmly learn and thrive, and meet the you know, expectations that we all have, and so they can grow up to be citizen artists.
So students can calmly learn and thrive.
And grow up to be citizen artists.
Learn and thrive. That means that we must function ourselves calmly, right?
Very true. I've been learning that one my whole life.
Right. I mean, so this has been a remarkable hour for me. I can't thank you enough for everything that you've contributed. To all of our folks who have answered, provided questions, we are going to be doing a frequently asked questions document. And to our panelists, I'll be turning to some of you to help us with those answers, and then we'll post it up on our website. So we want to do our final thoughts round, and I gave a prompt. So I ask you to complete the sentence, and I'll call on you in our Hollywood Square format. This is the prompt, the sentence to complete. As we reimagine teaching and learning music for teachers and students, I believe music will. Nicole, would you like to start for us?
Certainly. I believe music will find a way. Music always finds a way. It'll stay relevant, and it will be something that we're able to continue to share with young people. We just have to get up and fight for the arts every day.
Thanks, Nicole. David?
I believe it will evolve and survive.
Thanks, David. Sean?
I believe music will have a critical role in healing the distance that's been created. You use this time to create and adapt musical approaches that will enhance already existing practices once we return to school and build for the future.
Thank you. Barbara?
I believe that music will be both a calming yet energetic presence in a time of chaos.
Thank you. Karen? Karen, we need your mic on. We want to hear every word. There you go.
I believe music will always be a creative platform no matter where we are.
Thank you. Nathan?
So I'll second David's comment that music will evolve, and I'll also say that music will endure. So many panelists have talked about the important role of technology, social media, publicizing what we're doing. We held a virtual graduation for our 8th grade students. We had almost 800 live viewers. I think at this point it's had over 14,000 views. And of course, that was an opportunity for us to integrate and showcase the music program and have our band students record music at home and feature it as part of the graduation ceremony. So the profession, the field will have to evolve like that, but it will always stay relevant and it will always continue.
Thank you. Jeff?
I believe music will be essential in continuing to allow students to create, express their feelings, connect with others, and meet their general social, emotional needs.
Thank you. Kim?
I believe music will continue to bring together, reach, and heal where words cannot.
Thank you. Charles?
I think it's going to do what it's always done. I think it's going to allow us to humanize each other, to bring us closer together. And for the most bold of us, I think it's going to be used as a tool to change the world.
George? Thank you.
I believe music will be an essential component in our push for social emotional learning, and I also hope in a big way social justice education across the country. And I want to challenge all of my fellow teachers to ask themselves if a child who's in my class can't have a meaningful music experience without me in the room, what am I doing? And what have we been doing all along? And what kind of reflection do we need to have on our teaching practices and our goals? So like Charles said, we can create citizen artists, not just music students, K-12.
Linda? Thank you, George. Linda?
Yes, I believe music will continue to be an integral part of all of our scholars' experiences in our district and other districts. And with assistance from our superintendent and senior staff and our dedicated faculty, they're committed. I know they're committed to offering music to all students. And of course, we recognize that it will look differently, but we'll continue to work collaboratively to serve all of our students.
Wonderful. Thank you. Lance?
I think we're going to see a renaissance of the music and the arts. You know, people are yearning to engage with each other and creating and performing, and arts will be that avenue of expression.
Thank you. Michael, would you end this thought wheel with us?
Mary, yes. I predict that music education will be stronger 2 years from now, and we will see soaring enrollment. Moms and dads who have been teaching our children at home during this period respect teachers on a level we've never seen. They know how hard it is to be a great teacher. They've gotten to try this. And music education and music teachers are beloved by all. And we know that if we can go forward a couple years, we will get through this, we'll be stronger, and we will truly change the world for music education. And again, I think our enrollments are going to soar. It's an exciting time to look forward to the next years.
We've all been so very, very lucky to have you share this time with us. I have experienced something, believe me, you've just filled my heart. I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for the work that you're doing in your districts, in your communities, and to all of our attendees and all our best communities. I think we too have also shared something that we needed to share. We need to come together and learn from each other. So we're going to say goodbye to our panel, and with great love and respect for all of you, we just want to give you a quick review of some of our resources. This is, I referred to our instrument hygiene document available at NAMM Foundation and also at NAMM.org. If you need the link, we'll be putting this available to all of you. We've also have some past webinars. We did some of the very first online teaching and learning webinars. They're available at NAMM Foundation. And we've also done a great deal of work with the CARES Act and the small business loans. And if you know anyone in the creative sector that is in need of some support to move through this time, there are gig workers, sole proprietors in the creative industry, in all industries, can access these relief funds that are available to businesses. Many of our NAMM members have. It's been very important to sustain our businesses through this time. Our summit is next Tuesday. We would love to have your participation. We're going to take a deep dive into advocacy. It's a 4-hour experience with live music, and it's free and available to all. And all we ask you to do is just log on to our website so we know that you're just part of our registration system. There you go, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Reminder that resources, there's our web link. Also Sharon Bryant, who is the contact for the Best Communities program, is always available to you. And our final quote from that great poet, there it is: music is the universal language of mankind. Womankind, personkind. Music is the universal language, and all of you have devoted your life to this, and you have just our deep regard and respect. So thank you so much for being a part of us today. To our wonderful panelists, so inspiring. Please stay in touch as you continue to do the rebuilding of the year that ahead. We'd love to be hearing from you. We'd love to share your resources. And I have an idea about how we can maybe do that going forward. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and we'll be thinking of you. Take care.